संसारदावानललिडलोका त्राणयकारुण्य गणगणात्वं प्राप्तस्य कल्याण गुणनवास्य वन्दे गुरु श्री चरणरविन्दं प्राप्तस्य कल्याण गुणनवास्य वन्दे गुरु श्री चरणरविन्दं महाप्रभु कीर्तन नित्य गीता वादित्रमाद्यान् मनसरसेना वादित्रमाद्यान् मनसरसेना रोमाञ्चकम्पाश्रुतरङ्गबाजो वन्दे गुरु श्री चरणरविन्दं रोमाञ्चकम्पश्रुतरङ्गबाजो वन्दे गुरु श्री चरणरविन्दं श्रीविग्रहाराधन नित्यनाना शृङ्गारतन्मन्दिरमर्जनादौ शृङ्गारतन्मन्दिरमर्जनादौ युक्तस्य भक्तां शनियुञ्जतोऽपि वन्दे गुरु श्री चरणरविन्दं युक्तस्य भक्तां शनियुञ्जतोऽपि वन्दे गुरु श्री चरणरविन्दं चतुर्वेदाशी भगवत्प्रसादो स्वादन्नतृप्तान् हरिभक्तसङ्गान् चतुर्वेदासी भगवत्प्रसादो स्वादन्नतृप्तान् हरिभक्तसङ्गान् कृत्वैव तृप्तिं भजत सदैव वन्दे गुरु श्री चरणरविन्दं भजत सदैव वन्दे गुरु श्री चरणरविन्दं श्रीराधिका माधवयोरपारा माधुर्यलीला गुणरूपनाम्नाम् मधुरलीला गुणरूपनाम्ना प्रदीक्षणास्वादनलोलुपस्य वन्दे गुरु श्री चरणरविन्दं प्रदीक्षणास्वादनलोलुपस्य वन्दे गुरु श्री चरणरविन्दं निकुञ्जयूनो रदिकेलिसिद्ध्याय यायालिभिर्युक्तिरपेक्षणीया रदिकेलिसिद्ध्याय यायालिभिर्युक्तिरपेक्षणीया तत्रादिदाक्षात् आदिवल्लभास्य वन्दे गुरु श्री चरणरविन्दं वन्दे गुरु श्री चरणरविन्दं साक्षात् हरित्वेन समस्तशास्त्रैर्युक्तस्तदा भूयत एव सद्भिः सत्त्वेन समस्तशास्त्रे उक्तस्तदा भूयत एव सद्भिः किन्तु प्रभुर्यां प्रिय एव तस्य वन्दे गुरु श्री चरणरविन्दं किन्तु प्रभुर्यां प्रिय एव तस्य वन्दे गुरु श्री चरणरविन्दं यस्य प्रसादात् भगवत्प्रसादो यस्य प्रसादानगति कुतोऽपि यस्य प्रसाद भगवत्प्रसाद यस्य प्रसादानगति
Gati Kotapi
Dvayam tu amstasya yashastri sandhyam Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam
Dvayam tu amstasya yashastri sandhyam Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam
Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam
Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam
Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam
Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam
Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Iti Namine Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine
Namaste Saraswati Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine
Jayo Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda
Jaya
Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jayo Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda
Jaya
Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jayo Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda
Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Krishna
Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Ram Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Ram Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Ram Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Ram Hare Hare. Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Ram Hare Hare. Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Ram Hare Hare. Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Ram Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Ram Hare Hare. Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Ram Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama
You should come when the light is off. You want to play Harmonium also? Okay.
Yes. Yes, नमामीश्वरं सच्चि आनन्दरूपम् लसत्कुण्डलं गोकुले व्रजमानम् नमामीश्वरं सच्चित् आनन्दरूपम् लसत्कुण्डलं गोकुले व्रजमानम् यशोदाभियोलुकलादवमानम् परामृष्टमत्यन्ततो धृत्यगोप्या रुदन्तं मुहुर्नेत्रयुग्मान्मृजन्तम् कराम्भोजयुग्मेन सातङ्कनेत्रम् मुहुश्वासकम्पात्रिरेकाङ्ककण्ठ स्थितग्रैवं दामोदरं भक्तिबद्धम् इति दृक्ष्वलीलाभेदानन्दकुण्डे स्वघोषं निमज्जन्तम् आख्यापयन्तम् तदीशिताग्नेषु भक्तैर्जितत्वम् पुनः प्रेमतस्त्वं सदा वृत्तिवन्दे वरं देवमोक्षं न मोक्षं वदिं वा न चान्यं वृणेऽहं वरेशदपीह इदं ते वपुर्नाथा गोपालबालम् सदा मे मनस्य वीरास्तं किमन्ये इदं ते मुखाम्भोजम् अत्यन्तनीले कृतं कुन्तलैः स्निग्धरक्तैश्च गोप्या मुहुश्चुम्बितं बिम्बरक्ताधरं मे मनस्य वीरास्तं अलं लक्ष्यलाभय नमो देवा दामोदर अनन्त विष्णु प्रसीद प्रभो दुःखजालब्धिमग्नम् कृपादृष्टिवृष्ट्यातिदिनं बतानो गृहाणि क्षमामज्ञं निव्यक्षिदृश्या त्वया मोचितौ भक्तिभाजकृतौ च तथा प्रेम भक्तिं स्वकामे प्रयच्छ नमो शीघ्रहो मेऽस्ति दामोदरेह नमस्ते स्तु धाम्ने स्फुरादित्तिदाम्ने त्वदीयोदराय विश्वस्य धाम्ने नमो राधिकाय त्वदीया प्रियाय नमो नन्दलीलाय देवाय तुभ्यम् नमो राधिकाय त्वदीया प्रियाय नमो नन्दलीलाय देवाय तुभ्यम् नमोश्वरं सच्चिदानन्दरूपं रसकुण्डलं गोकुले भ्रजमानम् यशोदाभियोलुकलाधवमानम् परामृष्टमत्यन्ततो धृत्य गोप्यो यशोदाभियोलुकलाधवमानम् परामृष्टमत्यन्ततो धृत्य गोप्यो Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
हिरण्यकाशीपूर्वक्षः शीलकाङ्कानकलये इतो न सिंह परतो न सिंह यातो यतो यमितातो न सिंह बाहिर न सिंह हृदय न सिंह नरसिंह मदिं शरणं प्रपद्ये तव करकमलवरेणकम् अद्भुतसिंहं दलिता हिरण्यकशिपु तनुभृङ्गं केशवदिता नरहरिरूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय केशवदिता नरहरिरूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय लक्ष्मी नरसिंह जय लक्ष्मी नरसिंह लक्ष्मी नरसिंह जय लक्ष्मी नरसिंह जय नरसिंहदेव जय नरसिंहदेव नरसिंहदेव जय नरसिंहदेव जय प्रहलाद महाराज जय प्रहलाद महाराज प्रहलाद महाराज जय प्रहलाद महाराज निताय गौर हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल निताय गौर हरि बोल नरसिंहदेव भगवान की जय प्रहलाद महाराज की जय निताय गौर प्रेमानंदी हरे
Vrindaye tulsi devaye priyaye keshavasya cha Vishnu bhakti prade devi satyvrata namo namaha Vrindaye tulsi devaye priyaye keshavasya cha Vishnu bhakti prade devi satyvrata namo namaha वृन्दाये तुलसीदेवाय प्रियाय केशवस्य च विष्णुभक्तिप्रदे देवी सचिव्रताय नमो नमः वृन्दाये तुलसीदेवी महारानी की जय
नमो नमः तुलसी कृष्ण प्रेयसी नमो नमः
श्री कृष्ण प्रेयसी नमो नमः
राधा कृष्ण सेवा पाबो ए अभिलाषी राधा कृष्ण सेवा पाबो ए अभिलाषी
कृष्ण सेवा
जे तोमार शरण लो तारा वांछ पूर्ण हो कृपा कोरी कोरो तारे वृंदावन वासी मोरा ए अभिलाष विलास कुंज दियो वाकु नयने हेरिबो सदा युगल रूप राशि हे निवेदन दरो सखीरनुगत करो हे निवेदन दरो सखीरनुगत करो सेवा अभिलाषा दिए करो निज दासी दीन कृष्ण दासे को ए जे नाम मोरा होय श्री राधा गोविंद प्रेम सदा येन भाषी श्री राधा गोविंद प्रेम सदा येन भाषी सदा येन भाषी नमो नमः तुलसी कृष्ण प्रेयसी नमो नमः नमो नमः यानि कानि चाप पानि ब्रह्म इत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिणा पदे पदे प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिणा पदे पदे हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा हरे 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 कृष्णा कृष्णा Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama,
Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama
Hare Rama,
Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama,
Rama Hare Hare Jaya Vrinda Devi Jaya Vrinda Devi Jaya Vrinda Devi Jaya Vrinda Devi Jaya Jaya Tulsi Maharani 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 Nita Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nita Gaura Hari Bol Nita Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nita Gaura Hari Bol Nita Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nita Gaura Hari Bol Nita Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nita Gaura Hari Bol Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Hare
Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama,
Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Vrindaye Tulsidevaya Priyaye Keshavaya Cha Vishnu Bhakti Pradidevi Satyavataya Namo Namaha. Vrindaye Tulsidevaya Priyaye Keshavaya Cha Vishnu Bhakti Pradidevi Satyavataya Namo Namaha. Vrindaye Tulsidevaya Priyaye Keshavaya Cha Vishnu Bhakti Pradidevi Satyavataya Namo Namaha. Vrindaye Tulsidevi Maharani ki jai. I bow down before you with great awe and reverence. O Tulasi, beloved of God, bow down to you with great awe and reverence. I bow down before you again and again. My desire is to obtain the service of Sri Radha and Krishna. Whoever takes shelter of you has his wishes fulfilled. Bestowing your mercy upon him, you make him a resident of Vrindavana. My desire is that you also give me the pleasure of the residence and pleasure groves of Sri Vrindavana Dham. Thus, within my vision, I will always behold the beautiful pastimes of Radha and Krishna. I beg you to make me a follower of the cowherd damsels of Raja. Please give me the privilege of devotional service and make me your own maidservant. This very fallen and lowly servant of Krishna praise may always swim in the love of Shri Radha and Govinda. Tulsi Devi Maharani Ki Jai. Shri Chaitanya Siksastakam Ki Jai. Chaito Darpanam Arjanam Bhava Mahadavagni Nirvapanam Shairakairabhya Chandrika Vitaranam Vidya Vaduhu Jivanam Anandam Buddhipardhanam Patipatam Purnam Ritasvadanam Sarvatma Snapanam Param Vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam Nam Namakari Bahuda Nija Sarva Saktis Tatra Pita Niyamitak Smarani Nakala Etadrisita Vakripa Bhagavan Mamapi Durdaivam Jasi Samihajani Nanuraga Trinada Pisuni Chena Tarura Pisa Hisnuna Amanina Manadena Kirtaniya Sadahari Nadanam Najanam Nasundarim Kapitam Va Jagadisha Kamaye Pamajanmani Janmanishware Bhavatat Bhakti Rahai Tuki Twayi Ai Nandatanuja Kinkaram Patitamam Vishame Bhavam Buddho Kripaya Tava Padapankija Stita Dulisadvisam Vichintaya Nayanam Galadasurudharaya Vadanam Gadgadurudaya Jira Pulakai Sitam Vapu Kada Tavanam Grahane Bhavishyati Yugayitam Nimesena Chaksasapa Vrisayitam Sunyayitam Jagat Sarvam Govinda Virahena Me Aslishya Vapadaratam Pinastumam Adasaranam Mamahato Karotuva Yata Tata Vavidata Lampato Mat Prananatas Saeva Napara Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Shri Chaitanya Siksastakam Ki Jai Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Namaste Saraswati Devi Guru Glory to the Sri Krishna Sankirtan, which cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for years and extinguishes the fire of conditional life of repeated birth and death. This Sankirtan movement is the prime benediction for humanity at large, because it spreads the rays of benediction. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss and enables us to fully taste the nectar for which we are always anxious. O my Lord, your holy name alone can render all benediction to the living beings, and thus you have hundreds of millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names you have invested all your transcendental energies. There are not even hard and fast rules for chanting these names. O my Lord, out of kindness you enable us to easily approach you by your holy names, but I am so unfortunate that I have no attraction for them. One should chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than the straw on the street. One should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respect to others. In such state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your causeless devotional service birth after birth. O Son of Maharaj Nanda, Krishna, I am your eternal servitor. Yet somehow or other I've fallen to this ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms at your lotus feet. O my Lord, when will my eyes be decorated with tears of love flowing constantly when I chant your holy name? When will my voice choke up, and when will the hairs of my body stand on end at the recitation of your holy name? O Govinda, feeling your separation, I am considering a moment to be like 12 years or more. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain, and I am feeling all vacant in the world in your absence. I know no one but Krishna as my Lord, and he shall remain so, even if he handles me roughly by his embrace, or makes me broken-hearted by not being present before me. He is completely free to do anything and everything, for he is always my worshipful Lord, unconditionally. Shri Chaitanya Siksastakam Ki Jai. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna There are 10 offenses in matter of chanting holy names of the Lord that should be avoided, and they are as follows. 1. To blaspheme the devotees who dedicate their lives to propagating holy names of the Lord. 2. To consider names of demigods like Lord Shiva or Lord Rama to be equal to independent names of Lord Vishnu. 3. To disobey the orders of the spiritual master. 4. To blaspheme the Vedic literature or literature in pursuance of the Vedic version. 5. To give some chanting Hare Krishna's imagination. 6. To give some interpretation on the holy name of the Lord. 7. To commit sinful activities on the strength of chanting the holy name of the Lord. 8. To consider the chanting of Hare Krishna as one of the auspicious ritualistic activities which are offered in Vedas as fruitive activities of karma kanda. 9. To instruct the faithless person about the glories of the holy name. And 10. To not have complete faith in the chanting of holy names and to maintain material attachments even after understanding so many instructions in this matter. It is also an offense to be inattentive while chanting. Every devotee who claims to be a Vaishnava must carefully guard against these 10 offenses in order to quickly achieve the desired success. Krishna Prema. Now let us offer our most humble obeisances unto all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord. They are just like desire trees that can fulfill the desires of everyone, and they are full of compassion for the fallen conditioned souls. Vanchakalpa turabhyascha kripa sindhubhyeva patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha vaishnava thakura ki jai nama om vishnu padakshtamastaya puttari Shrimate Bhakti Vinata Swami Namaste Saraswati Devi Guru Shesha Sunyavadi Paskati Shri Guru Pranama prayers ki jai. Om Agnyati Mirandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chaksurun Meditam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manubhishtam Sapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Jataha Pachakamalan Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahaguna Raghunatan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahaguna Lalita Shri Vishaka Nivitam Sha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namini Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paskatya Desatarine Namo Om Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Namini Shiva Suvanavi Devi Daitaya Kripabdaye Krishna Sambandha Vijnana Dayane Prabhave Namaha Madhur Ujvala Premadya Shri Rupanuga Bhakti Da Shri Gora Karuna Shakti Vigrahaya Namastate Namaste Gauravani Shri Murtaye Dinatarine Rupanuga Viruddha Papa Siddhanta Dvantaharine Namo Gora Kishoraya Shakshar Vairagya Murtaye Vipralambara Sambhade Pradam Vijayate Namaha Namo Bhakti Vinodaya Sachitananda Namine Gora Shakti Swarupaya Rupanuga Varayate Gora Vir Bhava Bhumestvam Nirdesta Sajamna Priya Vaishnava Sarvabhoma Sri Jaganatayate Namaha Vanchakalpa Turabhyascha Kripasindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Mahabodhanyaya Krishna Prema Padayate Krishna Krishna Chaitanya Namne Guru Chuse Namaha Panchatatvatmakam Krishnam Bhakta Rupa Swarupakam Bhakta Avataram Bhaktakam Namami Bhakti Saktikam Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Jayatam Surator Pangur Mama Madamate Gati Matsarva Swapadam Bhujo Radha Madana Mohano Divyad Vrindaranya Kalpadumadaha Shimad Ratnagada Simhasanastito Shimad Radha Shila Govinda Devo Prestali Bihi Sevyamana Smarami Shiman Rasa Rasaran Vivam Sivata Tatastita Karasan Venusmaner Gopir Gopinatak Striyestuna Tapta Kanchana Gorangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanustute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktivindam Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Shri Brahma Samhita Ki Jai. Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchitananda Vigraha Anadi Radhi Govinda Sarvakarana Karanam Chintamani Prakata Satma Sukha Pariksha Laksa Vritesha Suradvira Vipaliantam Lakshmi Sahasra Satasambhrama Sevyamana Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Dalayataksam Bharhavatam Samasitam Buddha Sundarangam Kandarpa Koti Kamaniya Vishesha Sobham Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Alola Chandra Kalasadvana Madhya Vamsi Ratnam Gadam Pranay Keli Kalavilasam Shamam Jibanga Lalita Nita Prakasam Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Angani Yasya Sakalendriya Vrittimanti Pasyanti Panti Kalyanti Chiram Jaganti Chinmaya Sadvijvala Vigrahasya Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Advaitam Achyutam Anadim Ananta Rupam Madhyam Purana Purusham Navayovanam Cha Vedesa Durlabam Adurlabam Akmabhakto Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Pantasta Koti Satavatsara Sampragamyo Vayo Ratapi Manasomani Pungamanam So Pyasti Yat Prapadasimya Vichintya Tattve Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Ekopya Sora Jayatum Jagadanda Koti Jayadanta Andanta Rasta Paramanu Jayantarastam Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Yat Bhava Bhavita Diyo Manajasta Taiva Samprapya Rupa Mahima Sanayanas Musa Suktarya Meva Nigama Pratitaistuvanti Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Ananda Chinmaya Rasabhakti Bhavitam Virya Eva Nicharupa Kalabi Goloka Eva Nivasata Kilatma Bhuto Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Premanjana Churita Bhakti Vilochanena Santaksa Deva Hidesu Vilokayanti Yam Shama Sundaram Achintya Gunaswarupam Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Ramadi Murti Sukalani Menatistana Avatar Makarot Bhavani Sukhintu Krishna Swayam Samabhavat Paramam Pamam Yo Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Yasya Prabha Pavato Jagaranda Koti Koti Svasesa Vasadadi Vibhuti Binam Tad Brahma Niskalam Anantam Asesa Bhutam Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Mayahi Yasya Jagadana Satani Sute Jagunya Tad Vasayaveda Vitayamana Satvavalambi Parasatvam Visuddha Satvam Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Manandam Chinmaya Rasat Matayamana Surya Prana Lampati Param Smaratam Upetya Lilayatena Bhuvanani Jayaya Jasram Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Golok Devi Maheshwari Dama Sute 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 Te Prabhavani Jaya Vitascha Yena Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Jayeva Yasya Bhuvanani Vibharti Durga Ichana Rupam Abhyasya Chitesta Tesa Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Yakarna Narnava Jale Bhajatisma Yoga Nidramananta Jagananda Saroma Kupa Adhara Saktam Avalambya Param Adi Purusham Syaika Nisvasita Kalamatavalamya Jivanti Loma Vilaja Jagadandanata Vishnu Mahansa Yasya Kalavishesa Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Pasmanya Tasma Sakalesana Jesu Teja Sriyam Kiyat Prakatayata Pitapatra Brahmaya Esa Jagadanda Vidana Karta Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Yat Pada Pala Vigam Vinidaya Kumbha Dvande Pranama Samayesa Ganadi Raja Vignan Vihantam Alamasya Jagatrayasya Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Agnir Mahiga Ganamabu Varuti Sascha Kalas Tatma Manasiti Jagatrayani Yasmad Bhavanti Vibhavanti Visanti Yamcha Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Yaschak Suresa Savita Sagalagrahanam Rajas Master Murti Sesa Teja Yasya Gaya Brahmati Sambrita Kala Chakro Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Dharmota Papa Nichaya Sutayasta Pamsi Brahmadi Kita Patagava Tirtha Jivaha Yadata Matra Vibhava Prakata Prabha Bhava Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Astrinda Gopa Matavendam Hoswa Karma Bandhan Rupa Falabhajan Matanoti Karmani Nirdhati Kinticha Bhakti Bhajam Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Yam Krodha Kama Sahaja Pranayadi Bitti Vatsalya Moho Gurugora Vasevya Bhava Sanchin Kitasya Sadrisim Taramapurete Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Shriya Kanta Kanta Parama Purusha Kalpataravo Duma Bhumishchitama Niganama Yinto Amamratam Kataga Namna Dyam Gamanama Pivam Sibriya Saki Chiranandam Chati Parama Pitata Swatyamapicha Sayatra Shiradi Bihisra Vidisarabi Vyasta Sumahan Nimesa Dakyava Vajitina Hiyatrapim Samaya Vajay Swita Dvipam Tamaham Ihagulakam Ityam Vidantas Te Santakshati Viracharakati Paye Shri Guru Vastika prayers ki jai. The spiritual master is receiving benediction from your ocean of mercy. Just as a cloud pours water on a forest fire to extinguish it, so the spiritual master delivers the materially afflicted world by extinguishing the blazing fire of material existence. Over my respectful basis unto the lotus feet of such spiritual master, who is an ocean of auspicious qualities, chanting the holy name, dancing in ecstasy, singing and playing musical instruments. The spiritual master is always gladdened by the Sankirtan movement of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because he is relishing the mellows of pure devotion to his mind. Sometimes his hair stands on end, he feels quivering in his body, and tears flow from his eyes like waves. I offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of such spiritual master. The spiritual master is always engaged in temple worship with Shri Shri Radha and Krishna. He also engages his disciples in such worship. They dress the deities in beautiful clothes and ornaments, clean their temple, and perform other similar worship of the Lord. I offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of such spiritual master. The spiritual master is always offering Krishna 4 kinds of delicious food, analyzes that which is licked, chewed, drunk, and sucked. When the spiritual master sees that the devotees are satisfied by eating Bhagavad Prasada, he is satisfied. I offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of such spiritual master. The spiritual master is always eager to hear and chant about the unlimited conjugal pastimes of Radhika and Madhava and their qualities, names, and forms. The spiritual master aspires to relish these at every moment. I offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of such spiritual master. The spiritual master is very dear because he is expert in assisting the gopis who at different times made different tasteful arrangements for the perfection of Radha and Krishna's conjugal loving affairs within the groves of Vrindavana. I offer my most humble obeisance unto the lotus feet of such spiritual master. The spiritual master is to be honored as much as the Supreme Lord because he is the most competent servant to the Lord. This is acknowledged in all revealed scriptures and followed by all authorities. Therefore, I offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of such spiritual master as a bona fide representative of Shri Hare Krishna. By the mercy of the spiritual master, one receives the benediction of Krishna. Without the grace of the spiritual master, one cannot make any advancement. Therefore, I should always remember and praise the spiritual master at least 3 times a day. I should offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of my spiritual master, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So we're continuing in the Krishna book, and we'll probably finish today. And we are in chapter 30. Krishna is hiding from the gopis. When Krishna suddenly disappeared from the company of the gopis, they searched for him everywhere. After not finding him anywhere, they became afraid and almost mad after him. They were simply thinking of the pastimes of Krishna in great love and affection. Being absorbed in thought of him, they experienced loss of memory, and with dampened eyes, they began to see the very pastimes of Krishna, his beautiful talks with them, his embracing, kissing, and other activities. Being so attracted to Krishna, they imitated his dancing, his walking, and his smiling, as if they themselves were Krishna. Due to Krishna's absence, they all became crazy. Each one of them told the other that she was Krishna himself. Soon they all assembled together and chanted Krishna's name very loudly as they moved from one part of the forest to another, searching for him. Actually, Krishna is all-pervasive. He is in the sky, and he is in the forest. He is within the heart, and he is always everywhere. The gopis, therefore, began to question the trees and plants about Krishna. There were various types of big trees and small plants in the forest, and the gopis addressed them. Dear banyan tree, have you seen the son of Maharaj Nanda passing this way, laughing and playing on his flute? He has stolen our hearts and gone away. If you have seen him, kindly inform us which way he has gone. Dear Ashoka tree, dear Naga flower tree, and Champaka flower tree, Have you seen the younger brother of Balarama pass this way? He has disappeared because of our pride. The gopis were aware of the reason for Krishna's sudden disappearance. They could understand that when they had been enjoying Krishna, they thought themselves to be the most fortunate women within the universe, and since they were feeling proud, Krishna had disappeared immediately just to curb their pride. Krishna does not like his devotees to be proud of their service to him. He accepts everyone's service, but he does not like one devotee to proudly consider himself better than others. If sometimes there are such feelings, Krishna ends them by changing his attitude toward the devotee. The gopis then address the Tulasi plants. Dear Tulasi, you are much beloved by Lord Krishna because your leaves are always at his lotus feet. Dear Malati flower, dear Malika flower, dear jasmine flower, all of you must have been touched by Krishna while he was passing this way, after giving us transcendental enjoyment. Have you seen Madhava passing this way? O mango trees, O trees of jackfruit, O pear trees and asana trees, O blackberries and bale trees and trees of the kadamba flower, are you all very pious trees to be living on the bank of the Yamuna? Krishna must have passed through this way. Will you kindly let us know which way he has gone? The gopis then looked upon the ground they were traversing and began to address the earth. Dear earthly planet, we do not know how many penances and austerities you have undergone to be now living with the footprints of Lord Krishna upon you. You are very jolly. The hairs on your body are these brilliant trees and plants. Lord Krishna must have been very much pleased with you. Otherwise, how could he have embraced you in the form of Varaha, the boar? When you were submerged in water, he delivered you, taking the whole weight of your existence on his trunks. After addressing the innumerable trees and plants and the earth, they turned their faces toward the beautiful deer who were looking at them very pleasingly. It appears, they addressed the deer, that Krishna, who is the supreme Narayana himself, must have passed through this way along with his companion Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune. Otherwise, how is it possible that the aroma of his garland, which is smeared with the red kumkuma from the breast of the goddess of fortune, can be perceived in the breeze blowing here? It appears that they must have passed through here and touched your bodies, and thus you are feeling so pleasant and are looking toward us with sympathy. Will you kindly, therefore, inform us which way Krishna has gone? Krishna is the well-wisher of Vrindavan. He is as kind to you as to us. Therefore, after leaving us, he must have been present in your company. O fortunate trees, we are thinking of Krishna, the younger brother of Balarama, while passing through here, with one hand resting on the shoulder of the goddess of fortune, and the other hand twirling a lotus flower. He must have been very much pleased to accept your obeisances, and he must have glanced at you with great pleasure. Some of the gopis then addressed their gopi friends. Dear friends, why don't you question these creepers who are so jubilantly embracing the big trees as if the trees were their husbands? It appears that the flowers of the creepers must have been touched by the nails of Krishna. Otherwise, how could they feel so jubilant? After searching for Krishna here and there, the gopis became fatigued, and then they began to talk like mad women. They could satisfy themselves only by imitating the different pastimes of Krishna. One of them imitated the demon Putana, and one of them imitated Krishna and sucked her breast. One gopi imitated a hand-driven cart, and another gopi lay down beneath the cart and threw up her legs, touching the wheels of the cart, as Krishna did to kill the demon Sakatasura. One gopi imitated child Krishna and lay down on the ground, and one gopi became the demon Trinavarta and carried the small child Krishna by force into the sky. And one of the gopis began to imitate Krishna while he was attempting to walk, ringing his ankle bells. Two gopis imitated Krishna and Balarama, and many others imitated their cowherd boyfriends. One gopi assumed the form of Bakasura, and another forced her to fall down as the demon Bakasura did when he was killed. Similarly, another gopi defeated Vatsasura. Just as Krishna used to call his cows by their different names, so the gopis imitated him, calling the cows by their respective names. One of the gopis began to play on a flute, and another praised her the way Krishna boyfriends praise him while he played on his flute. One of the gopis took another gopi on her shoulders, just as Krishna used to take his boyfriends. Absorbed in thoughts of Krishna, the gopi who was carrying her friend began to boast that she was Krishna herself. All of you just see my movement. One of the gopis raised her hand with her covering garments and said, "Now don't be afraid of the torrents of rain and severe hurricanes. I'll save you." In this way, she imitated the lifting of Govardhan Hill. One gopi forcibly put her feet on the head of another gopi and said, "You rascal Kaliya, I shall punish you severely. You must leave this place. I have descended to this earth to punish all kinds of miscreants." Another gopi told her friends, "Just see, the flames of the forest fire are coming to devour us. Please close your eyes, and I shall immediately save you from this imminent danger." In this way, all the gopis were madly feeling the absence of Krishna. They inquired about him from the trees and plants. In some places, they found the imprints of the marks on the soles of his feet, namely the flag, the lotus flower, the trident, the thunderbolt, etc. After seeing those footprints, they exclaimed, "Oh, here is the impression of the marks on the soles of Krishna's feet. All the marks, such as the flag, the lotus flower, the trident, and the thunderbolt, are distinctly visible here." They began to follow the footprints, and shortly they saw another set of footprints besides them, and immediately they became very sorry. "Dear friends, just see, whose are these other footprints? They are beside the footprints of the son of Maharaj Nanda. It is certainly Krishna passing through, resting his hand on some other gopi, exactly as an elephant goes side by side with his beloved mate. We must therefore understand that this particular gopi served Krishna with greater affectionate love than ourselves. Because of this, although he has left us, he could not leave her company. He has taken her along with him. Dear friends, just imagine how the dust of this place is transcendently glorious. The dust of the lotus feet of Krishna is worshipped even by Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva and the goddess of fortune, Lakshmi. But at the same time, we are very sorry that this particular gopi has gone along with Krishna, for she is enjoying the nectar of Krishna's kisses and leaving us aside to lament. Oh friends, just see. At this particular spot, we do not see the footprints of that gopi. It appears that because there were some pinpricks from the dried grass, Krishna took Radharani on his shoulder. Oh, she is so dear to him. Krishna must have picked some flowers in this spot to satisfy Radharani, because here, where he stood erect to get the flowers from the high branches of the tree, we find only half the impression of his feet. Dear friends, just see how Krishna must have sat down here with Radharani and tried to set flowers in her hair. You can be certain that both of them sat together here. Krishna is self-sufficient. He has nothing to enjoy from any other source. Yet, just to satisfy his devotee, he treated Radharani exactly as a lusty boy treats his girlfriend. Krishna is so kind that he always tolerates the disturbances created by his girlfriends. In this way, all the gopis pointed out the faults of the particular gopi who had been taken alone by Krishna. They said that this chief gopi, Radharani, must be very proud of her position, thinking herself the greatest of the gopis. Yet how could Krishna take her away alone, leaving all of us aside, unless she is extraordinarily qualified and beautiful? She must have taken Krishna into the deep forest and told him, "My dear Krishna, I am now very tired. I cannot go any further. Please carry me wherever you like." When Krishna was spoken to in this way, he might have told Radharani, "All right, better get on my shoulder." But immediately Krishna must have disappeared, and now Radharani must be lamenting for him. "My dear lover, my dearest, you are so fine and so powerful. Where have you gone? I am nothing but your most obedient maidservant. I am very much aggrieved. Please come and be with me again." Krishna, however, is not coming to her. He must be watching her from a distant place and enjoying her sorrow. All the gopis then went further and further into the forest, searching out Krishna, but when they learned that actually Radharani was left alone by Krishna, they became very sorry. This is the test of Krishna consciousness. In the beginning, they were a little envious that Krishna had taken Radharani alone, leaving aside all the other gopis. But as soon as they knew that Krishna had also left Radharani and that she was alone, lamenting for him, they became more sympathetic to her. The gopis found Radharani and heard everything from her about how she had misbehaved with Krishna and how she was proud and was insulted for her pride. After hearing all this, they became actually very sympathetic. Then all the gopis, including Radharani, proceeded further into the forest until they could no longer see the moonlight. When they saw that it was getting gradually darker, they stopped. Their mind and intelligence became absorbed in thoughts of Krishna. They all imitated the activities of Krishna and his speeches. Due to their heart and soul being completely given to him, they began to chant his glories, completely forgetting their family interests. In this way, all the gopis returned to the bank of the Yamuna and assembled there, and expecting that Krishna must return to them, they simply engaged in chanting the glories of Shri Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 13th chapter of Krishna. Krishna is hiding from the gopis. Gaur Premanandi, Haribol, Haribol. So now we're going to hear a lot more about Mother Yasoda and Damodar Astakam. There's a tremendous amount of information about Mother Yasoda and her relationship with Krishna in the Nectar of Devotion, obviously. And it begins with the Srimad Bhagavatam, the 10th canto, 9th chapter, 18th verse. So not only there's information in Nectar of Devotion, but also Srimad Bhagavatam. So it says, because Mother Yasoda's hard labor, her whole body became covered with perspiration, and the flowers and comb were falling from her hair. When child Krishna saw his mother thus fatigued, he became merciful to her and agreed to be bound. So Mother Yasoda was chasing after Krishna because he was very naughty. He had stolen butter that was kept in a storage place and gave it to Balaram and his cowherd boyfriends, and also gave it to the monkeys. So Mother Yasoda was spying on him. And then when Krishna realized that he was being spied on by her, he became afraid. And then he saw a rope in her hand, and that frightened him even more. And he began to cry, and some of the mascara or kajal on his eyes started coming down his cheek. And Mother Yasoda was overwhelmed with emotion seeing this unbelievable position of Krishna. And then he had also become angry because she eventually ran after him, and then he could see how she was laboring very hard. And when he saw this, out of his perception of Mother Yasoda's extreme love for him and care, he agreed to be tied up by her, although it's impossible to tie up Krishna or in any way catch up to him. But this is how Krishna is very vulnerable to the pure love of his devotees. He has absolute power to do anything he wants, but the reason he does not give bhakti easily to somebody is because he becomes vulnerable, and he becomes beholden to his devotee who's serving him with such unalloyed love and devotion. When Mother Yasoda and the other ladies finally saw that Krishna, although decorated with many bangles and other jeweled ornaments, could not be bound with all the ropes available in the house, they decided that Krishna was so fortunate that he could not be bound by any material condition. Thus, they gave up the idea of binding him, but in competition between Krishna and his devotee, Krishna sometimes agrees to be defeated. Thus, Krishna's internal energy, Yogamaya, was brought to work, and Krishna agreed to be bound by Mother Yasoda. So this is in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Now, in the Nectar of Devotion, there's more information about this. It explains now how Krishna is controlled by the love of his devotees. Although Krishna is uncontrollable, he's completely independent, but he is vulnerable to the unalloyed love of his devotees. And it says, Krishna becomes obliged to the loving spirit of the devotee and not exactly to the service. Very interesting point. See, that's why it says that love of Krishna is not causal. It's not because someone knows how to recite the entire Bhagavad Gita or the entire Sahasranam Sutram or the Narayana Sutra and things like that, or the entire Srimad Bhagavatam. But he is vulnerable to the love of his devotee, not necessarily the service. Now, that doesn't mean we shouldn't serve the Lord, but if we serve the Lord but never achieve genuine, unalloyed love for the Lord, then we failed. Right? He is so complete and self-sufficient that he has no need of any service from the devotee. It is the devotee's attitude of love and affection for Krishna that makes him obliged. This is why it's very hard for people to approach Krishna, because they can do exercises, they can do service, they can do rituals. Those things they can do. But to actually develop unalloyed love for Krishna is very rare. Very, very rare. A very nice example of this obligatory behavior was manifested when Sudama Vipra went to Krishna's palace. Sudama Vipra had been a class friend of Krishna's, and due to his poverty, he was induced by his wife to see Krishna to request some aid. When Sudama Vipra reached Krishna's palace, Krishna received him very well, and both he and his wife washed the feet of Sudama Vipra, showing respect to the Brahmana, remembering his loving affairs with Sudama in their childhood. Krishna began to shed tears while receiving him. So this is amazing, but it just shows the extremely deep-seated affection and love between Krishna and his pure devotees. Another instance of Krishna's obligation to his devotee is described in the 10th canto, 9th chapter, verse 18 of Srimad Bhagavatam, where Sukadeva Goswami tells King Parikshit, "My dear king, when Mother Yasoda was perspiring, tired of trying to bind Krishna up with rope, Krishna agreed to allow her to bind him. Krishna, as a child, was disturbing his mother by his naughty activities, and she wanted to bind him up. Mother Yasoda brought some rope from the house and tried to tie up the child, but she could not tie a knot due to the shortness of the rope. She tied together many other ropes, but when she finished, still the rope was too short. After a while, she felt very tired and began to perspire. At that time, Krishna agreed to be bound by his mother. In other words, no one can bind Krishna by any means other than love. He is not bound only by obligation. He is bound only by obligation to his devotees because of their ecstatic love for him." So this is a very important point and something very difficult to achieve. Even in this world, people talk about love. There's so many songs about love. In Hindi and the other languages also in India, there are many songs about love. But is there actually love in the material world? Very, very little. It's mostly lust. Right? And that's why there's so much divorce and so much arguing and so many strange things that happen in relationships, not only in India, but all over the world. But in Krishna's pastimes with his devotees, there is extreme love and affection and intimacy and surrender and humility. And even in the highest level, like Krishna's pastimes with the gopis, if the gopis become a little proud, he teaches them that they've made a mistake, you see, because he wants his devotees to be very humble. Chenadapi suni chena tarorapi sestana manina manadina kirtanya sadahari. One must be more humble than the straw in the street, more tolerant than the tree that never complains no matter what happens, right? And ready to offer all respect to others, even those that don't respect you. In such a state of mind, one can be sadaharis. One can chant the holy names of Krishna incessantly for your whole life. But to be able to do that, you have to be extremely humble and ready to tolerate so many things, because in the material world, there's so many unsavory things. One has to tolerate them and be able to understand the necessity for complete surrender to the Lord. So, therefore it says, when ecstatic love develops into a relationship of parenthood and becomes steadily established, the relationship is called Vatsalya Rasa, or the parental relationship with Krishna. The exhibition of this Vatsalya Rasa standard of devotional service can be found in the dealings of Krishna with his devotees, who represent themselves as superior personalities like father, mother, and teacher. Learned scholars have described the impetuses for parental love for Krishna existing in the elderly personalities who are in relation with him as follows. Quote, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whose bodily complexion is just like a bluish, new-grown lotus flower, whose body is very delicate and whose lotus eyes are surrounded by scattered hair as black as bees, was walking on the streets of Vrindavana. When Mother Yasoda, the beloved wife of Nanda Maharaja, saw him, immediately the milk began to flow from her breasts, soaking her body. End of quote. Some specific provocations for parental love of Krishna are listed as his blackish bodily hue, which is very attractive and pleasing to see, his all-auspicious bodily features, his mildness, his sweet words, his simplicity, his shyness, his humility, his constant readiness to offer respect to the elderly, and his charity. All of these qualities are considered ecstatic provocations for parental love. So, wouldn't any mother or father want to see their child have these qualities? Let's hear what it says. To see his auspicious bodily features, his mildness, his sweet words, his simplicity, his shyness, his humility, his constant readiness to offer respect to the elderly, and his charity. All of these qualities are considered ecstatic provocations for parental love. In Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, 8th chapter, verse 45, it is stated by Sukadeva Goswami that Mother Yasoda accepted Lord Krishna as her son, although he is accepted in the Vedas as the king of heaven, in the Upanishads as the impersonal Brahman, in philosophy as the supreme male, by the yogis as the supersoul, and by the devotees as the supreme personality of Godhead. Once Mother Yasoda, without knowing that the Lord himself, crawling in her yard, had wreaked the havoc. I'm sorry. Yeah. So that is the way of reciprocation. I'm sorry. Once Mother Yasoda addressed one of her friends in this way, Nanda Maharaj, the leader of the cowherd men, worshipped Lord Vishnu along with me. And as a result of this worship, Krishna has been saved from the clutches of Putana and other demons. The twin Arjuna trees were, of course, broken due to the strong wind, and although Krishna appeared to have lifted Govardhan Hill along with Balarama, I think that Nanda Maharaj actually held the mountain. Otherwise, how could it have been possible for a little boy to lift such a great hill? This is another example of ecstasy in parental love. This kind of parental love is generated in a devotee out of his conviction in love that he himself is superior to Krishna, and that without being taken care of by such a devotee, Krishna could not possibly live. One devotee therefore prayed to the parents of Lord Krishna as follows: "Let me take shelter of the elderly parental devotees of Lord Krishna. They are always anxious to serve Krishna and to maintain him, and they are always so kind to him. Let us offer our respectful obeisances unto them for being so kind to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the parent of the whole universe." In other words, Krishna is serving his parents as if he is dependent on them completely for protection and instruction. And in this way, Krishna enjoys accepting a subordinate position to his parents so that they can treat him like an ordinary boy. And they assume that they are protecting him and feeding him. If they don't feed him, then he'll starve. If they don't protect him, something could happen to him. This is going on in the spiritual world, and this is under the let's say, the maintenance of Yoga Maya, who puts devotees in the spiritual world in illusion. But by that illusion, they come closer to Krishna. Whereas in the material world, everyone is put into illusion by Mahamaya, and Mahamaya makes them separate or go farther away from Krishna. How? By giving them material opulences. They pray, Dhanam Dehi, Janam Dehi, Rupam Dehi, 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 gimme, gimme, gimme. Our mantra is Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Their mantra is gimme, 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 gimme. Gimme, 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 gimme. See, that's the main difference between the two. So here we see that a Brahmana, he wants to worship. Instead of worshiping Vedas and Upanishads and Mahabharata, they wanted to worship Maharaj Nanda, because the Supreme Absolute Personality of Godhead, Krishna, is crawling in his courtyard as his own child. What a benediction that is, right? So, in Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, 9th chapter, verse 3, Sukadeva Goswami gives Maharaj Pariksit a description of the form and beauty of Mother Yasoda. He says, "My dear king, the wide hips of Mother Yasoda were surrounded by silk and linen cloths, and her breasts were flowing with milk because of her affection. When she was churning butter and tightly holding the rope, the bangles on her hands and the earrings on her ears were moving, and from the nice decoration in her hair, the flowers were slackening and falling down. Due to her excessive labor, there were drops of perspiration on her face." There is another description of Mother Yasoda in a devotee's prayer. "Let me be given protection by Mother Yasoda, whose curly hairs are bound with thread, whose hair is very brightly beautified by the vermilion, meaning reddish, placed in the part, and whose bodily frame derides all her ornaments. Her eyes are always engaged in seeing the face of Krishna, and thus they are always filled with tears. Her complexion, which resembles the bluish lotus flower, is enhanced in beauty by her dressing herself with many colorful garments. Let her merciful glance fall on all of us, so that we may be protected from the clutches of Maya and smoothly progress in our devotional service." So if you are always meditating on a pure devotee of Krishna, you will definitely come closer to Krishna, right? By the association of such a pure devotee. Like, for example, when Prabhupada came amongst us, we changed our lives from being addicted to so many bad habits. We gave them up so that we could be closer to Prabhupada, who brought us closer to Krishna. We cannot come close to Krishna without the help of a pure devotee. It's impossible, because we're under the grip of Maya. The grip of Maya only loosens by the mercy of the spiritual master's instructions, and if we take them seriously and follow them, then Maya gives up. But if we don't, or if we follow for a certain time and then give up following, then immediately Maya comes back. See? There's the following description of Mother Yasoda's affection for Krishna. After rising early in the morning, Mother Yasoda first of all offered her breast milk to Krishna, and then she began to chant various mantras for his protection. Then she would decorate his forehead very nicely and bind his arms with protective talismans. By all of these activities, it is definitely understood that she is the emblem of all maternal affection for Krishna. So, she was putting on talismans on his arm, right? They're basically Narayana Kavacha and things like that, right? She was offering her breast milk to him right away, and she would chant mantras for his protection, right? And by all these activities, it is definitely understood that she is the emblem. That means she is the summum bonum, the perfect example of material affection for her son, Krishna. This is what mothers should follow. The example of Yasodamai, who's completely dedicated to her child. And she will do everything to protect her child. And she is always very, very kind and gentle, and always speaking with sweet words of love to her child. And she's so overwhelmed by her child that milk flows from her breasts and flows like a river, right? And wets her clothing. This should be the standard for all mothers. Now, we can't exactly emulate Mother Yasoda completely, but we should follow the example that she's giving. A total dedication to her child and protectiveness, and never being harsh or never being in any way unkind to the child. There is the following description of Mother Yasoda's. Okay. So, in the childhood age, Krishna, dressed as a child, moved, this is in his Komara age, okay, it's describing childhood age, childhood dress, movements by the child, sweet words spoken by the child, nice smiling, and various forms of childish play are considered provocations for increasing parental love for Krishna. The childhood ages of Krishna are divided into three periods: the beginning of Komara age, the middle of Komara age, and the end of Komara age. During the beginning and the middle of Komara age, Krishna's thighs are fatty, and the inner part of his eyes are whitish. There are signs of teeth coming out, and he is very mild and gentle. He is described as follows: when Krishna had only 3 or 4 teeth coming out of his gums, his thighs were fatty, his body was very, very short, and he began to enhance the parental love of Nanda Maharaj and Mother Yasoda with the activities of his childish body. He was sometimes stepping with his legs again and again, sometimes crying, sometimes smiling, sometimes I have to turn the page. Sometimes sucking his thumb and sometimes lying down flat. These are some of the different activities of the child Krishna. When Krishna was lying down flat, sometimes sucking the toes of his feet, sometimes throwing his legs upward, sometimes crying and sometimes smiling, Mother Yasoda, seeing her son in such pastimes, did not show any sign of restricting him, but rather began to watch her child with eagerness enjoying these childhood pastimes. In the beginning of Krishna's Komara age, the nails of tigers were set in a golden necklace about his neck. There was protective tilaka on his forehead, black mascara around his eyes, and silk thread around his waist. These are the descriptions of Krishna's dress at the beginning of the Komara age. When Nanda Maharaj saw the beauty of child Krishna with tiger nails on his chest, a complexion like the new-grown tamala tree, beautifully decorated tilak made with cow's urine. Whoa. They're putting tilak on Krishna made with cow's urine. They don't put water.
Extra protection.
Yes, exactly. Arm decorations of nice silk thread and silk clothes tied around his waist. When Nanda Maharaja saw his child like this, he never became satiated by the child's beauty. In other words, he couldn't get enough vision. He was never satiated. He kept wanting to keep his eyes focused completely on Krishna because it was so enchanting and so impelling. In the middle Komara age, the upper portion of Krishna's hair falls around his eyes. Sometimes he is covered with cloth around the lower part of his body, and sometimes he is completely naked. Sometimes he tries to walk, taking step by step, and sometimes he talks very sweetly in broken language. These are some of the symptoms of his middle Komara age. He is thus described when Mother Yasoda once saw him in his middle Komara age. His scattered hairs were touching his eyebrows, and his eyes were restless, but he could not express his feelings with proper words. Still, when he was talking, his talk was so nice and sweet to hear. When Mother Yasoda looked at his little ears and saw him naked, trying to run very quickly with his little legs, she was merged into the ocean of nectar. Krishna's ornaments at this age were a pearl hanging from the septum of his nose. The septum is that middle part of the nose, I think. Butter on his lotus-like palms and some small bells hanging from his waist. It is stated that when Mother Yasoda saw that the child was moving, ringing the bells on his waist, smiling at her with a pearl between his nostrils, and with butter on his hands, she became wonderfully pleased to see her little child in that fashion. Mother Yasoda would then address Nanda Maharaj. See my dear son, whose eyes are white, who has a turban on his head, a wrapper on his body, meaning like a cloth on his body, and leg bells that tinkle very sweetly on his feet. He is coming near, along with his Surabi cows, and just see how he is wandering upon the sacred land of Vrindavana. Similarly, Nanda Maharaj would address his wife. My dear Yasoda, just look at your offspring, Krishna. See his blackish bodily luster, his eyes tinged with red color, his broad chest, and his nice golden necklace. How wonderful he looks, and how he is increasing my transcendental bliss more and more. So this is in a later stage, the Poganda stage of Krishna. When Krishna, the beloved son of Nanda Maharaj, steps into his Kaisura age, although he becomes more beautiful, his parents still consider him to be in the Poganda stage. So Kaisura age is his mature age. Poganda is like teenage. Even though he is between the ages of 10 and 15, when Krishna is in his Poganda age, some of his servants also accept him as being in the Kaisura age. When Krishna performs his childish pastimes, his general practice is to break the milk and yogurt pots, throw the yogurt in the courtyard, and steal the cream from the milk. Sometimes he breaks the churning rod, and sometimes he throws butter on the fire. In this way, he increases the transcendental pleasure of his mother, Yasoda. In this connection, Mother Yasoda once told Mukara, her maidservant, just look at Krishna looking stealthily toward all sides and slowly stepping forward from the bushes. It appears that he is coming just to steal the butter. Don't expose yourself, or he may understand that we are looking toward him. I want to enjoy the sight of his eyebrows moving in this cunning way, And I want to see his fearful eyes and beautiful face. In enjoying Krishna's attitude of stealing butter very stealthily, Mother Yasoda experienced the ecstasy of maternal love by smelling his head, sometimes patting his body with her hand, sometimes offering blessings, sometimes ordering him, sometimes gazing at him, sometimes maintaining him, and sometimes giving him good instructions not to become a thief. Such activities are in maternal ecstatic love. An important point to be observed in this connection is that the childish propensity of stealing is there even in the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and therefore this propensity is not artificial. However, in the spiritual relationship, there's no inebriety to the stealing propensity, as there is in the material world. So inebriety means intoxication, and it implies that a person will get angry. That's what happens when they see their child stealing something. But in the spiritual world, it's the most wonderful thing to see Krishna stealthily approaching the containers of ghee to break them and distribute them to his friends and the monkeys and steal it, basically. And he goes into the houses of the other gopis, and he does the same thing. And they complain to Mother Yasoda, your child snuck into our house today, broke our pots of ghee and spread it all over the house and gave it to the monkeys. He's a rascal. But don't punish him, because we enjoyed seeing it. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, 13th chapter, verse 33, Sukadeva Goswami tells King Parikshit, my dear king, as soon as the elderly gopis saw their sons coming, so this is a pastime where after Brahma stole the cows and the cowherd boys, to stop Krishna's pastimes, Krishna reproduced the cows and cowherd boys and entered into them, right? So when the gopis and mothers, they saw Krishna, and the fathers saw Krishna, they saw their sons and their cows, they developed the same attraction that they have for seeing Krishna, because Krishna was multiplied himself to continue his pastimes, right? Although the cowherd boys and the cows had been taken by Brahma and hidden far away, right? So when Brahma comes back, he's bewildered, because he knows that he took them all away, but now he's seeing them again, right? He became bewildered. But the mothers and fathers, they became ecstatic, like the way they feel for Krishna. And they went and embraced their children and smelled their head and kissed them. And the same thing for the cows. The cow mothers went and started licking their little the little cows and being very affectionate to them. And when Balaram saw this, he knew that there was something strange happening, because this was very, very strange, right? They were all acting as if their own children, and the mother cows were acting as if their calves were Krishna. Then he understood that something had happened. See, of course, because Brahma wanted to stop the pastime of Krishna to prove that either Krishna is Supreme Personality of Godhead or that he is supreme, right? So he had a little bit of a doubt that he wanted to test Krishna. And what Krishna did was completely unexpected and impossible to imagine. He actually reproduced all the cowherd boys and all the cows and calves. And it was him expanded. Right? So therefore, this exceptional pastime took place. So, this is explained in the 10th canto, 13th chapter, 33rd verse. Sukadeva Goswami tells King Parikshit, my dear king, as soon as the elderly gopis saw their sons coming, there was an inexpressible sign of parental love, and all of them became absorbed in affection. At first, they were planning to chastise their sons for stealing butter, but as soon as the sons came before their eyes, they lost all their angry attitudes and became overwhelmed with affection. they began to embrace their sons and smell their heads. So this smelling of the head is a very important thing. When I first read this, I smelled the head of one of my kids, one of my very young kids, and it was very sweet smell. It was not like, didn't smell like cologne or anything like that, or you have these shampoos with perfume in it, it didn't smell like that at all. It had a very sweet smell of its own. So this is a sign of mother's love or a father's love for the child, the baby, or very small child. They smell their head. In their childhood pastimes, all these cowherd boys joined with Krishna in stealing butter. But rather than become angry, Mother Yasoda became wet from the milk flowing out of her breasts. Out of her affection for Krishna, she began to smell his head repeatedly. So now we have a test to see who's a real mother and who is not. The real mother always gets angry and always punishing her child, whatever. But that's the mundane mother. But the real mother has these feelings of intense love and affection for her child. And although she can instruct her child, still it's with love and affection. It's not to punish in a cruel way. So therefore, we have a test now to see who is a real mother and who is not. Okay. The general activities of all the mothers of the cowherd boys were to kiss them, to embrace them, to call them by their names, and sometimes to chastise them mildly for their stealing habits. Right? These manifestations of parental love are called sattvika ecstasy, wherein manifestations of 8 kinds of ecstatic symptoms are visible in full. In Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, 13th chapter, verse 22, Sukadeva Goswami tells King Parikshit, all the mothers of the cowherd boys were illusioned by the covering influence of the Yoga Maya potency of the personality of Godhead, and as soon as they heard the flute playing of their boys, they immediately stood up and mentally embraced their sons, who had been created by the direct internal potency of Krishna. Accepting them as their born sons, they lifted them into their arms and began to embrace them, resting the child's bodies upon their own. The emotions created by this incident were sweeter than nectar turned into a palatable intoxicant, and the milk flowing out of their breasts was immediately drunk up by the children. So see, this is another test when the mothers have so much love for their child that naturally milk flows from their breasts, right, and wets their clothing, and then they give their breast to the child to drink. In the Lalita Madhava, compiled by Rupa Goswami, Krishna is addressed as follows. My dear Krishna, when you are engaged in herding the animals, the dust caused by the hooves of the calves and cows covers your nice face and artistic tilak, and you appear very dusty. But when you return home, the milk flowing out of the breasts of your mother washes your face of its dust covering, and you appear to be purified by this milk. Just as when the deity is washed during the performance of the Abhisheka ceremony. So when Krishna comes back from the forest after taking the cows out with his cowherd friends and Balaram, and he comes back home to his mother, the mother's love for Krishna is so intense that milk naturally flows from her breast. And she does a type of abhishekam, bathing her son in the milk from her breast. What an image that is. It's unbelievable. Sometimes there are examples of Mother Yasoda's becoming stunned in ecstasy. This was exhibited when she saw her son lifting Govardhan hill. When Krishna was standing, raising the hill, Mother Yasoda hesitated to embrace him and became stunned. The dangerous position that Krishna had accepted by lifting the hill brought tears to her eyes. With her eyes filled with tears, she could not see Krishna anymore, and because her throat was choked up by anxiety, she could not even instruct Krishna as to what he should do in that position. This is a symptom of becoming stunned in ecstatic love. Mother Yasoda sometimes enjoyed transcendental ecstasy and happiness when her child was saved from a dangerous situation, such as being attacked by Putana or some other demon. In Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, 17th chapter, verse 19, Sukadeva Goswami says that Mother Yasoda felt very, very fortunate when she got back her lost child. She immediately placed him on her lap and began to embrace him again and again. While she was thus embracing her son repeatedly, torrents of tears fell from her eyes, and she was unable to express her transcendental joy. It is stated in the Vigdagda Madhava of Srila Rupa Goswami, "My dear Krishna, the touch of your mother is so pleasing and cooling that it surpasses the cooling capacity of the pulp of sandalwood and of bright moonshine mixed with the pulp of Ushira root." Ushira is a kind of root which, when soaked in water, has a very, very cooling effect. It is especially used in the scorching heat of the sun. What time is it now?
7:24.
Okay, we'll stop right there. We'll continue tomorrow. There's a lot of nectar here, pure nectar. And you see, it's not just from Srimad Bhagavatam, it's from the advanced books that not the acharyas, but the sannyasis, Rupa Goswami and others have written. And these are very confidential books. They're very advanced books, most advanced books, explaining the depth of love that's being expressed in the spiritual world by the devotees to Krishna and Krishna to the devotees. This is what they are meditating on 24 hours a day. We can't imagine the length and breadth of it because there is unending ecstasy. Yeah. Okay, so thank you very much, and we'll continue tomorrow. Gaur Premanandi, Hari Bol. So now we have the test to see how much mother is a real mother
Hare Krishna.
or a fake mother.
Hare Krishna.
Or a fake father. You cannot love anybody unless you love Krishna. That's how you learn how to love. So now we're learning how to love.
Shri Guru Cherana Padma Kevala Bhakati Sadma
Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakti Sadma
Bandhamui Savadana Mate
Bandhamui Savadana Mate
Jahara Prasade Bhai Evavatariya Jai
Janara Prasade Vai Hey Bhavatoriya Jai
Krishna Prapti Hoy Jaha Hote
Krishna Prapti Hoya Hoite
Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chitte Koriya Kya
Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chitte Goriya Kya
Harana Koriya Maniya गति ऐसे उत्तमा गति
गुरु चरण रति ऐसे उत्तम गति
जय प्रसाद पूरे सर्वासा
प्रसाद पूरे सर्वासा
चक्षुदान दिलो जे जन्मे जन्मे प्रभु से
दान दिल जय जन्मे जन्मे प्रभु से
दिव्य ज्ञान हृदय प्रकाशितो
प्रकाशितो
प्रेम भक्ति जहाँ होते अविद्या विनाशा जाते
भक्ति जहाँ होते अविद्या विनाश जाते
वेद गाय जहाँ रचरितो श्री गुरु करुणा सिंधु आदम अजय नारा बंधु
गुरु करुणा सिंधु धन जनर बंधु
लोकना लोकेर जीवाना प्रभु कोरो दोया देह मोरे पाद छाया
प्रभु कोर दोया देह मोरे पाद छाया
ये विजास गुसुक त्रिभुवाना
त्रिभुवाना
प्रभु कोरो दोया देह मोरे पाद छाया गुसुक त्रिभुवाना श्रील प्रभुपाद पतित पवाना जय प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा
प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा
जय गुरुदेवा जय गुरुदेवा जय गुरुदेवा जय गुरुदेवा
गुरुदेवा जय गुरुदेवा जय गुरुदेवा जय प्रभुपदा
नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रस्थाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी नित्यनामिने
विष्णुपदाय विष्णवेशाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी नित्यनामिने
नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषं शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यादेशतारिणे
नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे विशेष शून्यवाणी पश्चात्यादेशतारिणे
जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गणधर श्रीवसदि गौर भक्त वृंदा
कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर
Govinda.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Nitya Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitya Gaura Hari Bol.
Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Jai Om Vishnupad, Paramahansa Parivrajagocha, Statara Satara Shishi, Shimada's Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Goswami Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai, Prem Sikaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Dvaita Gadadhar Shri Vasudeva Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Sam Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai, Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai, Shri Mayapur Dham Ki Jai, Shri Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai, Tulasi Devi Ki Jai, Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Ganga Maya Ki Jai, Jamuna Maya Ki Jai, Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Nitai Gaura Premanandi. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Guranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Patita Bhavani Ki Jai. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutili Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Nityamani Namaste Saraswati Deve Guruvani Pacharani Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Paskatya Desatarni. The
Lotus feet of our spiritual master are the only way by which we can attain pure devotional service. I bow to his lotus feet with great awe and reverence. By his grace, one can cross the ocean of material suffering and obtain the mercy of Krishna. My only wish is to have my consciousness purified by the words emanating from his lotus mouth. Attachment to his lotus feet is a perfection that fulfills all desires. He opens my darkened eyes and fills my heart with transcendental knowledge. He is my Lord birth after birth. From him, ecstatic prema emanates. By him, ignorance is destroyed. The Vedic scriptures sing of his character. Our spiritual master is the ocean of mercy, the friend of the poor, and the Lord and master of the devotees. O Master, be merciful unto me. Give me the shade of your lotus feet. Your fame is spread all over the three worlds.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna,